welcome to episode 27 of Impacted, coming to you by the Total Nonstop Impact Network. I'm your host, Bison, and today I am joined by the TNI-UK team of Simply Steve and the Joe-ker. How are we doing, boys?
Good morning.
Good morning, bud. How about you, Steve? How you doing?
Yep, all good here.
All good. Good man. Good man. Now, at this time, I would like to invite everyone to subscribe to the TNI network. Wherever you watch or listen to the show, make sure you give us a thumbs up, a like, as that helps us turn up on people's feeds, etc. And of course, leave us a comment. We love to know what you guys' thoughts, or maybe anything you would like us to discuss on the show, or even what you might want to, like I say, anything you might like to hear us talk about on future shows, something along those sort of lines. And finally, make sure that you hit that bell, give it a good tickle to never miss any of the great content that comes out each and every week from the TNI team in the US and of course in the UK. Okay, so this week is a news and rumors show, isn't it, boys?
Yeah, nice and simple.
Nice. Yeah, you're right. Nice and simple. It's just all about the news and the rumors. As I say, I like to make sure that we mention the news/rumors because at the end of the day, it's just stuff that sort of like is coming up, popping up in our in our feeds, in our inboxes with some of the little scoops that we sometimes pick up. But we like to talk about all sorts of bits and pieces as we go through the week. And this week we've had quite a few different bits and bobs, and some of it revolves around the fallout from Hardcore Justice, and of course some stuff that was going on last night's show as well. It's interesting to see how everything's sort of kind of going forward, isn't it, guys?
Yeah, it's all, everything's steamrolled over the last 24 hours or so. So I was pretty blown away. You'd expect a bit more news after we had just had WrestleMania and all the cuts and stuff there. But instead, it's all come out at the last minute.
Interesting. Very, very interesting on what's going on. And it's funny you should mention the releases from up north, actually, because that leads us into talking about that, really, doesn't it? The big news is that, the releases, which traditionally come at this time of the year from up north, there's been about 10, I think, in total, 10 or 11. But some of the names do include Samoa Joe, who is, I absolutely popped on that one because I thought, well, if Samoa Joe's becoming available, then we need to get that boy back on Impact TV. But we've got Samoa Joe, we've got Bo Dallas again, Mickie James, who is an ex-Knockouts champ, Chelsea Green, another former Essex champion, Laurel Van Ness. There's more names along the lines of like Callisto, Wesley Blake. Who else was on the list, guys? Do you know?
Yeah, Mickie James, Billy Kay, Peyton Royce, Samoa Joe, Chelsea Green, Tucker, Callisto, Bo Dallas, and Wesley Blake.
Yeah, I mean it's a pretty good list, and some surprises on there as well. I mean, I don't know, Joe, do you still watch the Up North?
No. That's a poison apple I don't want to touch again.
The ship sailed.
Yeah.
How about yourself, Steve? Do you watch it?
No. I still once a year tune in and watch the Rumble, but beyond that, I don't know.
Fair enough. But I mean, at the end of the day, there's some names in there that have been around for some time. Like you say, Samoa Joe being a big one, Nation of Violence, man. That if there was certainly one at that list that I would love to see return to Impact, I'd love to hear that. And out comes the Nation of Violence. I think that would be amazing. And again, Chelsea Green would probably be pretty good. I mean, we've talked about her before. I was actually a bit of a fan of that whole, Lush Bride thing that she was doing. Laurel Van Ness. I actually quite liked it, and I think it was just such a shame that she won the title and then literally 2 weeks later was gone. It was a real shame for me, and it sort of left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. But I'm hoping that moving forward, we just you got to forget about stuff like that. And if she turns up, it's going to be great. I mean, obviously, the fact that Matt Cardona is currently on Impact TV would lead to a potential Chelsea Green return. Maybe, who knows? He would, potentially be telling her what it's all, what Impact's like at the moment and that kind of stuff. So, be interesting. I am actually a bit of a fan of Kalisto. Actually, he's a lucha libre guy. I don't know too much about Wesley Blake, but again, you've got Bo Dallas in there as well, who is a long-term guy. I mean, he came up through NXT. I think he was a Nexus member or something like that when all that went down with the Wade Barrett era. The UK guy, Wade Barrett. Bad News Barrett. Interestingly, maybe he would be. He's also the brother of Bray Wyatt. Is that right in real life? Yeah. So, that's interesting. So there's definitely some interesting names on there who, could interestingly, do a good job for Impact, I think. And I'm pretty sure we'll see AEW swooping in there for a couple of those as well. But yeah, no, it's interesting times at the moment. Interesting times. Now, a little bit of bad news, though, guys. A little bit of bad news that dropped last night was that, unfortunately, the Knockout Nevaeh has been released. For me, that's terrible because I was a bit of a Nevaeh fan, so I'm going to miss seeing Nevaeh on a weekly basis. All I can say is about this one, it is quite sad, and I wish her all the best. And all I got to say is if you want to support Nevaeh, get on there, buy a shirt, buy an 8x10. Check out where she's going to be turning up on the Indies if you're in the US. Who knows? She could. I mean, once all the borders open up, you never know. You might get to see her in a UK promotion at some point. Who knows? But what are your thoughts on that, guys?
I'm gutted. I was really surprised to hear it this morning. I was not expecting Nevaeh to go.
Yeah, it's sad. What about you, Steve?
Yeah, it feels a bit like it's come out of nowhere. Like when Havoc and Nevaeh split, the push felt like it was for Nevaeh. Like although she wasn't winning too much, it felt like she was losing deliberately so she could then win her way back and, win her way back up the ladder. Like she would then sort of, build herself back up.
I mean, I
top.
definitely, for me, I definitely felt that a singles push for Nevaeh was on the way. It's a real shame because she is an incredible singles competitor as well. So we never really got to see that side of her. So that was a real shame. But in the time, I mean, she's been there for what, roughly a year? Well, a year, I think. Obviously, she signed a 12-month deal, and for me, I think she's been brilliant. I've enjoyed her. But there you go. What can you say? We know that there's potentially a few more knockouts arriving.
Hopefully. I mean, I take all three of them, really. The Iconics are a good tag team, and we need tag teams, and we know Mickie James is a great star. I mean, hopefully you got a feeling she'd go to NWA with Nick, but you don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'd take all three of them.
Yeah, and Chelsea Green as well.
Chelsea Green too. She's
you've
been
got
posting
that
a lot with
possibility in
Deanna.
there. Yeah, I mean, we know also that Rachel Ellering, for instance, who's not turned up yet, she was apparently at the last set of tapings. So, maybe, losing a couple of knockouts recently is making room for some new ones. Who knows? I mean, who knows? I mean, we know we've got Taylor Wilde coming in as well. So, that's great news. And I'm very excited to see Taylor. I was a big fan of her, back when she was... she was knockouts champ and tag champ, so knockouts tag champs in the past. So she is a great female wrestler. So I'm really looking forward to her return. So that's going to be great. Of course, we've recently seen the turn of Susan. Now this is interesting. We'll get into that in a second. So we've seen the turn from Susan back into Sue Young at the Hardcore Justice pay-per-view. However, this past week on Impact, we also saw Susan back with our Knockouts champion Deanna Purrazzo. You know, and we saw obviously Deanna was sort of questioning it was Susan and it wasn't Sue, which was great. And you know what, like, you know, it makes sense. You know what, why would we
Ooh.
not see more than just, you know, the undead bride, you know, the undead bride Sue Young. We could see Susan. We might even see Susie turn up at some point. Let's face it, you know, at the moment it's the three faces of Sue, isn't it? Which is interesting. Now, what I want to talk about with regards to that, though, is recently on her social media outlets, from especially her Twitter, her kind of name seems to be turned to V5 Team. Now, you know, I'm not sure what this is alluding to, but there's obviously something strange going on here. You know, and with it be saying V5, I don't know what V5 stands for, but 5 could mean maybe 5 personalities or 5 members to a faction, or, you know, who knows. What are your thoughts on this, Joe?
I can remember a couple of weeks ago that when she was Susan, she was talking about getting an administrator to monitor her Twitter account and to handle all the stuff there.
Yeah.
So I think that's really what that's down to. But the way they brought Sue Young back at Hardcore Justice, it was so perfectly done. I popped just as much as when they had Susie and Sue Young come onto the stage, and then to not just have Sue Young thrust down your throat again, to bring back Susan, and have Scott Demore try and provoke her, and it's just great that they're still mixing everything she can do rather than having one person go to someone else. We've said it before. She's like Mick Foley. She can play any character perfectly, but Impact Wrestling is doing a much more smarter thing than we saw from WWE with Mick. Rather than having it go from one character, this is how you're going to go for a couple of months, couple of years. They are mixing and matching, and it's a lot, giving her a lot more creativity, and it's just keeping the whole thing original.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And it would be interesting. I'd love to see. I mean, they couldn't do it live, but it would be really good to see on, say, one of these monthly specials that we get from Impact Plus, the 3 faces of Sue turn up in one match. Like, you know, whether it be some sort of multi-person match, some sort of Royal Rumble type thing, you know, some sort of over-the-top rope type match, where, you know, Susan gets eliminated, and then all of a sudden Susie turns up and she gets eliminated, and then a couple of people down the line Sue Young turns up. I mean, it could be pretty. I think that could be really cool. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on the Sue Young stuff, Steve?
Yeah, like I say, I really enjoy it, and it's one of those things where every time she gets into a different character, I'm sort of like, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy this, because I really enjoyed the last character so much, and then the more she gets into it, like, I'm really enjoying this one. I don't want her to change, and then like you say, she gets into another one, like, I really like the last one, and then I'm like, I'm enjoying this one more.
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from with that one. You know, I just think when you've got a talent like that can just literally flick between character to character, you've just got to use it as much as you can, like, you know. So I think
woman.
Yeah, I think there's some really, really exciting times ahead with regards to Susan, you know, Suella, or whatever it is that we end up getting.
And I think the V5 maybe shows that maybe we are getting 5 characters.
I think there's a possibility of that. I think there's definitely a strong possibility of that, and it will end up the multiple faces of Sue Young. In the moment, we got 3. You know, could we see a 4th one arrive fairly soon, and then obviously build into a 5th? Who knows? Or is there the possibility in there that she is building a faction? I don't know. Leave your comments, guys.
Faction of Sues.
Yeah, can you imagine? Yeah, the faction of Sues. I mean, it could be all sorts of stuff going on here. But, you know, let us know your thoughts in the comments, guys, because I'll be very interested in to see exactly what you guys think about, the V5 team thing, or the current state of the Su Yung multiple personalities, storyline that we've got going on at the moment. I think it's very exciting where this could go. I know you're a big fan of Su Yung, Joe. So, what are your thoughts on the possible faction, maybe?
Oh, I'm wondering how they could pull it off. The best way would be they could get a couple of wrestlers of similar build to come in, like Casey Spinelli, to carry to like the best characters they could do would be someone like Su Yung, rather than to have them cover Susie or Susan, because you can see their faces a lot more clearly.
Yeah.
It would take some really clever editing or just some perfect planning to get it all to work. But I think that if they wanted to, they could probably pull it off.
I mean, I still believe you could create a tag team of Susie and Su Yung, because it's recorded.
Yeah.
You could have like a back double, couldn't you? You could have a back double, so that the back double you would sort your camera angles out, so that when she's on the outside of the ring, you don't necessarily see the face. But that would, I think, the back double would potentially have to be probably Su Yung as opposed to Susie, maybe.
Yeah.
But to be fair, someone like Gail Kim could do that. Do you not think?
She's not. I think she's a bit taller than Su Yung is. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, Sue's quite short, isn't she?
Yeah, it would need to be someone with similar build, like Casey Spinelli, who's got big legs. I don't want to get.
Yeah, but you've also got to think about the facial features as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the facial features have to sort of kind of like when that makeup goes on.
Yeah.
You have to have similar facial features for it to look like the person it's supposed to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so it's interesting where this could go, but I still think that I think it could happen, or I think it's possible. It wouldn't be easy,
no,
because there would be a hell of a lot of editing involved. But I think if they could pull something like that off, like that would be a first in any professional wrestling promotion.
It'd make a good cinematic match for sure.
I think so. I think it would be really good. I think it would be really, really, again, cinematic match. But when it's a cinematic match, it becomes more obvious that clearly it's
been edited.
Isn't it? But if you put it in the ring,
like,
as a match, then that becomes a completely different ball game, because that's supposed to be happening there and then.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I'm just imagining the hilariousness of Su Yung and Susie tagging. Su Yung doing all the crazy moves and sort of like evil kind of intent and everything, and then
you could have Susie on the back
going up to her going, "That's bad.
That's bad."
It would be
just kind of the back and forth between them would be absolute gold.
I think it would be gold. I really do. I think it would turn into one of those classics that Impact Plus would get,
and Susan as the manager.
Yeah.
Oh God, there you go. Even better. Susan as the manager, coming out, as the manager. Susie and Su Yung in the ring tagging. Susan on the outside.
The shoe ready.
Causing interference. I'm sorry, but I think it could work. It would take some serious editing skills, but I think it could be done, and I think it'd be I think it would be an amazing thing to see, especially like you say, because at the end of the day, it'd be a perfect opportunity to do it now when they've got nobody in the arenas. You know what I mean? There's nobody there. They can literally take their time over it. And make sure that they get all the angles right and film it. I mean, it doesn't have to be a long match. It could be just one of those sort of 5, 6, 7 minute matches, 5-minute match. It doesn't have to be super long. So it wouldn't necessarily, like if you were trying to do a 15, 20-minute match, then maybe that would take up so much time, it just wouldn't be worth doing. But maybe a little 5-minute match. I don't know. I think it would be really cool. And again, you could even record it to look like it's at the pay-per-view. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they could record it to look like it's at Rebellion, but they just run VT as though it's live. even though, and it might not be live. That would make it even more amazing, because people would be blown away at the fact, hang on a minute, are they doing this live? Like, what's going on? And I just think that would be, I don't know, creative. Do your business. Get in there.
We want to know what you think, guys. The possibilities are endless. So step
Are we
into
on
the
to
voice.
something, or are we going mad?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's been around me a bit too long.
It'd be interesting to see if they could do something like that. But moving on from Sue, we've also heard this week, and I think it only popped out yesterday, that Anthem have bought an MMA promotion. It's an all-female one called IMPACTUK. That apparently is going to be aired on Access TV. And it looks like, because as far as I'm aware, Access TV previously has been, was quite linked to sort of kind of like combat sports. They've had MMA on there in the past. Of course, we know that New Japan Pro Wrestling used to be on there. Was it Stardom or something like that? Was also on there. A female wrestling promotion used to be on there. So and it I don't know. It seems like there is the potential there now to start rebuilding Access TV as that sort of kind of combat sport destination. And that can only be a good thing for Impact as well, because it just brings more eyes to the promotion in that right demographic. The all important 18 to 45 demo that everyone keeps going on about. It could potentially bring more eyes. What do you think on this one, Joe? I mean, are you into the combats? Are you into sort of MMA stuff, or?
I do watch a bit of MMA and a bit of boxing if it's on. But I don't follow it fully. But if there's like one or two matches of interest, then I'll watch it, especially with boxing. But and Anthem has always been a very, very sport-heavy company. They've got their own sports channel to begin with. But
well, you got Fight Network, haven't you?
They got Fight Network, and Anthem Sports is a separate company from Anthem that does a lot of handling with things like mixed martial arts and boxing and things like that. So, and for Access TV to get more wrestling and more combat sports on there, it just boosts it even more. I think it was Shimmer they had on as their other
Shimmer. Yes,
as their wrestling promotion for the women. So to bring women's sport back into the spotlight again is just a plus in itself.
Totally, I totally agree with that, because I think nowadays some of the female MMA's talents are incredible.
They're ruthless. Some of them, they're more dangerous than the men sometimes.
Oh, they're incredible. They are incredible. Now, Steve, I wanted to ask you this, because do you think that this potentially could lead to more stuff coming? I mean, does it open the door for, say, a New Japan Pro Wrestling to turn up on Access TV again? What do you think on that? Or do you think we're going to start seeing more and more kind of combat sports turn up on Access TV?
Very possibly, because did New Japan used to be on Access?
Yeah, New Japan used to be on Access on a Saturday night, I believe. It was I think it was more of a highlight show. I think it was about an hour and a half show.
Okay.
I think it was more of a highlight show rather than necessarily the full-on, up-to-date weekly show, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
but it was definitely on there. Yeah, it's definitely on Saturday night.
They do have a little tie there, but yeah, it's very, very possible. And I think it would be good if they did have more sport area orientated to the channel. Like, I find it very strange how you have some channels which are, I don't know, say soap orientated, and then suddenly they put a bit of sport there.
Yeah.
So
look at ITV4.
Yeah,
very random, really random. Yeah.
So yeah, I think if they did fill it with a specific sort of genre, like your sport, then they could fill it, like get in touch with like the New Japan, the AAA, because they're involved with maybe not so much your AEW, because they're very set in what they do. But
AEW is never going to turn up on Access.
No, they're not. But maybe sort of reach out and kind of try and fill a little bit here, a little bit there, and you never know. Maybe we'll see Impact over on where other channels where New Japan and AAA sort of broadcast.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about this is, I mean, and I've always thought this as well. Now, I'm not saying that, there's a potential to suddenly have like the New Japan Pro Wrestling every, with the week, fully up-to-date weekly shows. But what it does do is it opens up the possibility to have sort of kind of like, say, highlight shows. So,
Yes.
because I have to be honest, as an Impact fan, I'd like to see highlight shows, but
Yeah.
I would not like to see, say, a completely up-to-date New Japan Pro Wrestling show that is airing on Access, which would potentially take away the spotlight from Impact.
Oh yeah, you've got to balance it. That they could put
Yeah.
a highlight show for AEW on Access, and that would be good enough, or even AEW Dark, and that.
Yeah,
that would...
I mean, could you imagine that? That would be really cool. Could you imagine if AEW Dark turned up on a Tuesday night? Because it's on Tuesdays, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine if that then turned up on Tuesday night on Access TV. As well as on YouTube. So they have it on YouTube, but they also have it on Access TV as well. As a potential, or like you say, they take it off YouTube and just put it on Access TV. There is possibilities in there to have that. And again, vice versa. If you were to, maybe have a highlight show for Impact turn up on TNT.
Yeah, Tony Khan says the invisible door is the invisible door. Eddie Edwards says the door needs to swing both ways. So, yeah, come on, Tony, at least consider it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Tony can, put a show on TNT. I mean, but he could potentially be that sort of kind of like middleman to say, look, why don't we do something like this? This would be really cool. It could be the middleman kind of thing, But for me, I just think we need to see more from AEW with regards to Impact. I believe there was a mention of Rebellion and the match and everything else on this past week's Dynamite. So I haven't seen it yet. I do try and watch the highlights of Dynamite when I can, because obviously I want to see, I want to watch the Good Brothers, or I want to see a Rich Swann turn up, or I want to see that personally, And I still am a big fan of your Kazarians and your Christopher Daniels and all those kind of guys now. I mean, Christian Cage is over there now and all sorts. I still have this crazy idea in my head that there's all these sort of like kind of former Impact guys or TNA guys turning that are now at AEW, and I still sort of kind of have this like crazy thought in my head that at some point it's going to be like these guys are going to turn on AEW and do you know what I mean? I just have this thing in my head, especially when Christian Cage turned up, because not only did Christian Cage turn up, but he turned up as Christian Cage and using the same music from TNA. So there is a Captain Charisma and all that. I mean, it's all in there, isn't it? I think the signs are there, and there's loads of guys. I mean, you've got the Blade. Who is it? The Blade?
Yeah, the Blade was Braxton. Was Braxton Sutter.
So he's there as well. You've got your Lucha Brothers. You've got your. I mean, I know Lucha Brothers are probably, you would associate them more with AAA, I guess. Maybe Lucha Underground or whatever than Impact, but they were in Impact for a good 12, 18 months, and they had a massive amount of time on Impact TV. Again, we've got the second coming of LAX over there. Maybe LAX could suddenly turn. I don't know. I just have this sort of kind of thing in my head that something like that could happen, and actually would be like a massive shock and a big surprise. People just would not see that coming, I don't think, unless they watch our show and of course hear me talking about it. But I just think there is a possibility that could happen. But either way, I think it's great to see that Anthem is starting to acquire more combat sport promotions, and specifically, we know that this particular one is all female, and that they're looking to put it on Access TV. So it's just adding more and more combat sports to the channel. And I think this can only be a good thing. And I think it just shows also that the commitment that they've got to the channel and building that channel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, moving on. Now I've said all I've had to say on that one. I know that this is something that you wanted to talk about, Joe, especially. We've obviously got this past week on Impact, we had the Jazz retirement from Impact Wrestling, or I think they're trying to sort of kind of insinuate that it's done completely. She's done.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case, because I think she's got indie bookings and all sorts of things she's going to do on there. But yeah, so we had the Jazz retirement. She comes out to the ring this past week on Impact with Jordynne Grace. That we start to get the speech. She's thanking everybody. She's sort of putting over Impact and putting over Jordynne as well, which I thought was really cool. We then get Fire and Flavor turn up with their own unique way of interrupting, which then led to a match, and of course Jazz getting the pin on Kira Hogan, and yeah, so that was interesting stuff. As that all sort of kind of like came to an end, and then there was a bit more thank yous from Jazz, which then led to the entire locker room, obviously other than Fire and Flavor, coming out to basically thank Jazz for everything that she's done for the business, and thank her for her, the last sort of 3 or 4 months that she's been with Impact Wrestling. Now, I'm going to go to Joe first on this one, Steve, because I know that he's got a few things to say on this.
That's fine.
So, yeah, off you go, my friend. Off you go, Joe.
Yeah. This send off, it was really emotional. I love that. After Kira Hogan and Tasha Steelz come in and get their ass kicked, she just immediately carries on. It's like, now that's out of the way. Where was I? Jazz's career has been, I wish I'd followed it a lot more, but just knowing what she's done over the last 20, 15 years, hearing that from Matt Stryker is just absolutely awe-inspiring, and people forget what she's done. And to choose Impact Wrestling as the first promotion to go to really kick off her farewell tour, because I know she's taking bookings for June outside of Impact Wrestling and everything like that. So to choose Impact Wrestling as the starting platform to end everything is just a testament to how much respect she has for this company and for the locker room. Giving Jordynne Grace the endorsement, thanking Tommy Dreamer, Gail Kim, and everybody out back was really, really pleasant to see. And even that the match of Tasha Steelz and Kira Hogan, it's good for Tasha Steelz and Kira Hogan to have a final match with those two. And now that Jazz is officially not going to be in the match at Rebellion, opens up the door to who's going to be coming in there. Personally, I think it's going to be Taylor Wilde, or now that we've been talking about her, I think it might also be Mickie James. That's my predictions on who might be coming in for Rebellion to team up with Jordynne Grace to take on Fire and Flavor, and possibly Jazz at ringside as a final last hurrah. But when the locker room came out all banging on the ring saying thank you, I was watching Impact Wrestling this morning on my phone, and I was banging on the kitchen cabinet watching it along with them.
So you were joining in.
I was joining in, and then tapping my phone on the kitchen cabinet, which wasn't a smart idea because I nearly dropped it.
What about you, Steve? What are your thoughts on Jazz?
Yeah, I can't echo any more what Joe said. There were 3 things I wrote down from this segment. One, from Hardcore Justice, the match that she had with Deonna was a great match, but the ending left me a bit underwhelmed, because Jordynne came out, they shared a moment, and then they just left, and I was like, I really hope that this wasn't Jazz's final moment. And then this segment was the moment I wanted Jazz to have, and thankfully they let her have this moment.
I couldn't agree more.
I'm glad they let her have this.
Yeah, definitely. I think we spoke about it on the review, didn't we? After Hardcore Justice with the TNI team, that it did feel a bit flat, and we hoped that there was something else to come. And of course, then they, you know, released the fact that they were going to do the retirement of Jazz on this past week's Impact. I think it was really good. I mean, we then got the backstage segment, didn't we? Where Scott was sort of like, we then thought, oh, hang on a minute, we're gonna get a title match here at Rebellion, you know, to finish it off. But that don't work. She's retired. Hang on, she can't do that. She's not, you know. And then of course, you know, she then, you know, clearly stated, no, I'm a woman of my word. You know, I'm done. But I've got someone in mind. You know, I'm going to find you a partner to you know, take on Fire and Flavor at Rebellion. So we do know, as it stands at the moment, that it's going to be Jordynne Grace with a mystery partner versus Fire and Flavor for the Knockouts Tag Team titles at Rebellion. Now, Joe has touched on, you know, he thinks there's a possibility it's Taylor Wilde or Mickie James. Obviously, depending on Mickie James's current contract, she would have 90 days. So that
is it? Because I haven't seen anything about the 90-day clause.
Well, I thought every talent.
Well, we've already seen
unless
seen
they were
earlier.
NXT. I think NXT is 30 days.
Okay.
So Chelsea could be available more quicker because she was on NXT, wasn't she, Chelsea?
Yes.
And some of the other ones were on NXT as well.
So I know Andrade got released and he didn't get anything.
Yeah, but that was different, wasn't it? Because he'd asked for his release, and
okay,
I think there was a different situation there. But you know, the fact that they released them, I'm sure that there is the 90.
There is 90, is it?
If you're main roster, if you're NXT, I think it's 30. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see where that pans out. I think it's unlikely that Mickie James will be the partner, based on the fact that I would assume she's going to have a 90-day clause in there. That doesn't mean to say we couldn't see her turn up at the next pay-per-view, because, you know, that's like just over 3 months away now, which is 90 days. So, exactly. So, you know, who knows who could turn up at Slammiversary, and that would be a big one for something big to happen, wouldn't it? To see some like a Samoa Joe turn up, or you know, even a Bo Dallas would be good, or like you say, a Chelsea Green.
Yeah. Well, I say I'd take all of them. Probably
they're all I think they're all great talents, and it's a real shame that they've been released. But then, you know, WWE then take in a load of talents off the indies like they have done recently, and somewhere along the line they either sit these people on the bench because there isn't enough TV time to give them. Or you have to let a few go. You know, that's obviously the situation that they're in. You can't just keep bringing people in and not letting people go. So, so it's going to be interesting to see where that one goes. I'm going to put Rachel Ellering. I'm going to say Rachel Ellering is going to be Jordynne Grace's tag partner at Rebellion, and I think she's going to turn up on Impact TV the week before Rebellion. So is that next week then? That'll
be next week.
Next week.
Yeah. So next Thursday, expect Rachel Ellering to turn up. I think, and then that would set her up to be Jordynne Grace's tag partner for the tag team titles at Rebellion. What about you, Steve? What do you think?
Well, the way Jazz was talking, it was someone who Jazz sort of knows and has history with. Sadly, I don't know too much about Jazz's history. I will give her credit, though. She stuck by the rules. She didn't say, okay, I'll have another match.
Yeah. No, exactly. No, definitely.
Yeah. You know, I'm gonna go with what my first instinct was, and I'm just gonna say ODB.
Yeah, that one did. I did think that one as well, to be honest, because obviously Jazz was like, you know, a couple of weeks ago when ODB turned up, she was like, yeah, there's a few of us OGs coming back. You know, it's great to have you, kind of thing. So that, I mean, there is a possibility that could be the action, or could it be, like you say, another kind of, you know, what you would class as a
veteran? Yeah.
I mean, or maybe. I mean, we touched on this before we started recording earlier. I mean, maybe a Sienna. You know, I mean, Sienna, as far as I'm aware, is not with NWA anymore, and you know, Jazz has history with Sienna. I think it was Sienna that took the NWA title off Jazz. So, you know, there is, I mean, maybe there's a possibility there. I would be quite.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see, isn't it? Because this is genuinely one of those things where, you know, previously when we've had surprises, we've had an inkling, but this one we genuinely don't know.
No, I mean, I think, like you said, the only possibility that could be, I think, like, could be the hint is possibly Rachel Ellering, because we know that she was at that. We know that she was around at the set of tapings, and so far she hasn't turned up.
Yeah, we've got one potential and one blatantly obvious choice. We've got Rachel Ellering as the most potential, and the blatantly obvious one would be ODB, but I don't see it being ODB.
No, and of course the possibility of Taylor Wilde, as you mentioned. My personal opinion on that one is that it's not going to be Taylor, because they've been pushing her on her own. You know, they've been pushing the fact that she's coming back, and she's obviously gunning for singles glory.
Yeah, I could see her going after Janelle Dashwood after Rebellion.
Yeah, maybe there. Yeah, that would be interesting, definitely. So I don't know. I mean, there's quite a few options in there. You know, let us know, guys. Let us know in the comments.
Jazz
What do you
sticks around
think?
after this?
Sorry, mate.
You think Jazz sticks around after this?
No. I think this is it. I think she's done. She might be ringside with.
I mean, like backstage.
What, in a backstage role? You mean?
Yeah, because she's retired. The match retired her from the ring, but she's like it didn't retire her from the company.
No, that's true. I mean, she's on a retirement tour, I believe. She's going to be going off and doing some stuff in the Indies, but I suppose there isn't.
Do you think she has one of their matches in Impact?
I mean, yeah. I mean, definitely there is a possibility that, you know, maybe she could work alongside Gail Kim. I know previously, obviously, there was Gail Kim and Madison Rayne. Now Madison's gone. Maybe Jazz could take that, you know, that role on to work with Gail. Who knows? I mean, there are certainly possibilities in there that lots of things could be happening. Like you say,
Bound for Glory, maybe that'd be cool.
Well, you know, again, you just don't know, do you? It's going to be interesting to see exactly where they go with her, whether she disappears completely, if she goes into a backstage role. I certainly think she'll be at Rebellion, and I think she'll be ringside with Jordan and whoever is this potential partner. I think she'll be there just to, you know, give her like a cheerleader for the team, that kind of thing.
With pom poms.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, get the pom poms out. That'd be great. But yeah, so yeah, lots of interesting stuff going on with that. You know, all that's left to say on that is thank you, Jazz. You know, we've loved having you for the last sort of 3 or 4 months. It's been an absolute joy to you know, see your last sort of TV hurrah. I think it's been great. So thank you for your 20 plus years of you know, being a part of female wrestling, and of course also at the time, you know, you were kind of like setting the world alight. You know, you were changing the way things was. You know, when you turned up on ECW and stuff like that, it's you know, a proper hardcore badass. So yeah, no, fantastic. Thank you ever so much for everything that you've done. That, interestingly enough, does move us on a little bit to talk about the VBD fallout from Hardcore Justice, as we were just, you know, talking about her Jazz obviously losing her career versus title match. So we have VDB. What am I on about? VBD.
Fallout. Eric Young going bam.
Yeah, bam. Yeah, so we obviously had VBD fallout from Hardcore Justice, where they win the match against Eddie Edwards, Trey Miguel, Willie Mack, and Rich Swann. You know, that sort of like comes to hit us on the ass a little bit, and then in the next one we get Eddie Edwards getting in the ring this week this past week on Impact Wrestling with Willie Mack. Obviously, Rich Swann nowhere to be seen this week. Loads of sort of kind of like you know, talk about, you know, coming out and, you know, let's see you get in the ring and take us on and all that, which I thought was a little bit silly, unless they were planning on something, as we then find out, because obviously, you know, they were goading them out to the ring to blindside them with an incoming Cowboy James Storm and Chris Sabin when they finally came out and give it the big one. And yeah, so it's going to be, so we then end up with this 8-man tag thing going on. So we've got at Rebellion, we've now got obviously VBD versus Eddie Edwards, Willie Mack, James Storm, Chris Sabin at Rebellion. What are your thoughts on this, Steve? What are your thoughts on this, mate?
Well, previously I was like, okay, this is going to be a great match. But obviously, you know, we know the situation with EY, so it does bring a bit of mystique into the situation, doesn't it? And what's going to happen now?
It certainly does. And I was going to leave that for one of you guys to bring up. And I think it's interesting. So we know that EY's injured. Okay, so during this last set of tapings. So obviously this was all filmed. It was all built up probably before they knew that he wasn't going to be able to wrestle. Now, I'm pretty sure that, you know, it's common knowledge now that EY has an injury where he's going to be out for 6 to 9, maybe 12 months now of the ring. That doesn't mean to say he can't be on Impact TV because he can still be the leader of a faction. He just gets everybody else to wrestle, you know, and then obviously he can make his return when he's ready. But, you know, if we're going to have this kind of 4-on-4, this now leaves it open to the potential of bringing in a 5th member of VBD, or does it mean that there is the possibility of at least maybe just, you know, a guest appearance from somebody, or, you know, maybe a vet coming in, or, you know, a surprise, you know, debut possibly now. What do you think, Joe?
Personally, I think, well, we know Eric Young has got the tour muscle. I think he's still going to be able to wrestle this match. Someone criticized him online recently, saying, "I thought you were injured. Why did you wrestle this match at Hardcore Justice?" And he shot them down immediately, saying, "I told it I was injured, and I fought through this regardless." So I think if he's going to be at the match at Rebellion, but he's not going to be in the ring as much during the match, but he's still going to like run around if he needs to, still pull off some big moves if he's need to, but he's just going to be used a bit more sparingly. As for any potential incomer, I can't think of any really big guys on the indies and that who could fill the slot. So it would on for Impact Wrestling, if they were to just chuck in someone there, they really haven't got much options there apart from Hernandez, because you know Shearer's back with Rohit Raju now, and Jake something's a face, and he's been against Violent by Design, so he's not going to go in there. But if they were to, we talked about it before we came on, the possibility of someone from AEW coming in. Got guys from there who I can think of coming in is pretty much endless. But you know, just to throw a wild card out there, have someone like Brian Cage come in and go up against Willie Mack, because I've suggested to Brian Cage ages ago that if I was to see him come back in the ring with during this Impact versus AEW feud, I'd love to see him go against Willie Mack again, and he was all for it. So that would be awesome if like even just for the one night Brian Cage comes in and we have him and Willie Mack face off during this tag match, because if you guys haven't seen them face each other, you're missing something awesome.
And what about you, Steve? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's a few different things that they can do. I don't see EY wrestling here because wrestling at the past tapings when he was still, as far as I'm aware, he didn't even know he was injured here. That's why he was still able to wrestle. Whereas now, wrestling at Rebellion, there's it's been like a month later, so he's probably been told by the doctors, okay, you're not cleared to wrestle. But
I mean,
yeah,
I can't imagine. I think you're right. I mean,
no.
for an ACL I mean, that's quite a big injury. I mean, it does show the fact that he carried on wrestling during the tapings that he's a tough son of a bitch. But
He is.
I think once you kind of got to the doctors and the doctor said, "Hang on a minute, you've got a torn ACL, mate. You need to rest this."
Yeah.
So I personally, I think you're right. I don't think he'll be cleared to wrestle. It doesn't mean to say he won't be there, because
He'll definitely be on the outside barking orders, won't he?
Exactly. He is the leader of the faction regardless. And,
Yeah.
you know, if you're a leader of a faction, you don't necessarily have to be in the ring to still be involved in the storyline.
And as you said, he hasn't been in the ring that much until recently, so it probably won't hurt them. It's just this match is a 4-way, so they either bring in a 5th man, or they have someone that is just maybe affiliated with them that they can call on if they need, sort of temporarily. And looking on the roster, I don't think they need a big man, because they've already got 2 big men. You know, and EY, who they're losing, isn't one of the big men. So
No. It's interesting. I think what Joe meant was more big name, I guess.
Okay.
They've got Fulton, Ace Austin, and Hernandez are really and Ace Austin's already in a match, so it's Fulton and Hernandez or Falaba are like the 3 guys who aren't in a match for Rebellion. So they're really strapped for choices of who's on the roster that can go there. And Fulton's with Ace Austin, so how they'd manipulate Fulton to come into Violent by Design for one match would be very, very confusing.
Yeah, I think this is one of those perfect opportunities whereby, although maybe it wasn't initially planned, maybe it is one of those opportunities to debut somebody.
Oh yeah,
maybe. I was just having a look on the roster. How about making use of Davari for this spot?
Well, there you go. I mean, there is a possibility.
And he's a savage too. We've seen that when he's been in these matches.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't seen him wrestle for a little while either. So yeah, there is a possibility that someone like that could turn up. So yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments, guys, because, you know, again, this is a difficult one, and we're sort of kind of struggling with it a little bit on where this could possibly go. You know, I mean, we're clutching at straws, I think, with regards to maybe an AEW talent coming in. Although, like I've touched on previously, you know, I still believe that there is a forbidden hand in the background, which is pulling this VBD strings, and actually Eric Young, rather than being the full-on leader of the faction, I think there's somebody else that we're not seeing. There's somebody invisible at the moment, and I've got my thoughts on that one with regards to Tony. You know, is there a possibility that Tony could find a replacement from the AEW roster for, you know, I mean, God, just imagine if Myro turned up or someone like that. I mean, God, geez.
I was thinking more like Moxley.
Or even John Moxley. Yeah, definitely. You know, that would be very interesting. John Moxley turning up. So
the thing is, though, I don't see because Violent by Design are a big part of the show, and I don't see an AEW talent coming over here and staying in Impact for 6 to 9 months.
No, which is why I think it's more likely that it's going to be a debut in talent that possibly would have been joining the faction, but is now being, you know, it's being brought forward.
Yeah, the other option would be to take Storm or Saban out and have it as a 6-man tag match, and then have the guy who's out in the match on ringside as well.
Yeah, there is that option, but I think it's more likely they'll bring somebody else in.
Yeah, that's the bigger hype, and it was probably the better match in overall.
We didn't see what they done. We didn't see what they done to Chris Harris.
Yeah, that's true.
No, that's definitely true. I mean, Chris Harris, has disappeared. We aren't seeing Chris at the moment, so maybe it could be. Although, what you mean? So Chris Harris turning up for Violent by Design against James Storm?
Why not? Why not?
Yeah, why not? That's very interesting. You know, because they did take out Chris, didn't they? And then since that moment, we've not heard anything. So is Chris Harris currently at the asylum? Basically being,
baptized with the holy waters of change.
who knows? Who knows? I think that is an option. I know. Do you know what? That's a really good shout. I'm down with that. Again, guys, let us know your thoughts. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We love to hear what you guys think on all of the things that we talk about. So, please let us know your comments down below. I'm interested, especially Hakeem Fullerton. Get your opinions in on this one. I'd be very interested to hear what you thought on this, or Critical Sting. If you're listening, guys, if you're watching, then I'd be interested to know what you think as well on this one. That would be very, very interesting. Now, as we're currently talking about a potential match for Rebellion, I also want to bring up that I think in the last 24 hours we heard the news that there's going to be a guest commentator for the Kenny Omega versus Rich Swann monumental title versus title match, or world title versus world title from a different company, or however you want to put it, match. And his name is Mauro Ranallo. Now, I don't know, he's a play-by-play guy. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Steve, you know a little bit more about this guy. Because I think he's done some commentating on NXT. I believe he did stuff for ECW back in the day. I know that he's also been a boxing commentator. He's done stuff on MMA promotions. I think he was involved in some of the Ronda Rousey matches as she was coming up through the ranks. So, what are your thoughts on this this sort of kind of news item, Steve?
As I say, Mauro is, he's been, I think he left at NXT or was over in NXT for quite some time. I would guess sort of 2020 he left.
Right.
But yeah, he got the best announcer for quite a number of years. And he's always known as being a good voice in as commentary.
Yeah, I've heard he's renowned as one of the best play-by-play guys in the business. So I think, regardless of anything else, this is like, I'm looking forward to, checking out, hearing what this guy's about.
Yeah, and having our commentary sort of improve, having the main event being called by Mauro, we will kind of definitely have more eyes. Just having his name on the pay-per-view will kind of think, okay, he's calling it, I'll watch it.
Yeah, I think this is stuff like this that Impact are now starting to do. They're starting to be able to sort of kind of like, bring in these kind of people, and they're obviously in a position to pay them the money, because I'm sure that this dude is not, not going to be cheap. And maybe that's only why he's commentating on one match rather than the entire pay-per-view.
Maybe.
I think it's just about creating that big fight feel, isn't it, for the main event. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, obviously they'll do a big introduction, and before it all kicks off, they'll bring him out to the commentary box. And I'm assuming at this moment in time, they're going to have a proper commentary table. They need to have a commentary table. This bugs me, actually. This is one of the things that gets on my nerves, that they haven't got like a commentary table.
Yeah, so something I miss as well, especially it's like this stable thing in wrestling where there's always a commentary table there for someone to get smashed through.
Exactly.
It's only there for people to get smashed into, though.
Exactly.
Yeah. But it just adds to that retro feel, and it's always something I've been used to seeing.
I just think it's really cool seeing them like on ringside when they get animated and stuff as well.
Yeah.
So like when you see them go, oh my god, like and their hands are up, and it's like, oh my god, this kind of stuff. It's all part of the whole kind of like viewing experience for me. Now it doesn't. I mean, I know they haven't got a massive amount of room at the studios, but there must. I mean, even if they put the commentary, they opened up the rails a little bit and put.
I was going to say, there's loads of room without fans.
I think there is. I think there is a bit more. I think there's room to put a commentary team, a proper commentary team out And again, you know, it'd be good to do that because, you know, you could then get this guy to walk down the ramp and everything. You can make a proper big deal about it. So I think this is cool. I think it's great to see something different, you know, and again, it's a different voice, which is good. And obviously I'm talking about the Omega versus Swan main event. We obviously this past week on Impact had the press conference where Don Callis and Kenny turned up fashionably late. I thought that the way that they did the questions, you know, on the Zoom call thing, they had the guy from, and they were pretty prestigious outlets as well. You know,
That last one to Dom was Christ. Yeah,
I mean, yeah, the British guy.
Yeah.
That was a really interesting one, you know, and I thought it was extremely well worded as well. And then obviously Don, you know, come up and does what he does best, and then Kenny goes up to the podium and all that kind of stuff. Goads Rich Swann and just basically told Rich he's got you know, he respects him, but he's got absolutely no chance. Like you know, he may as well not even bother turning up. Really, he's just got no chance of winning. And you know, and then obviously you know,
the slap heard from around the world.
We get the slap, and then we get obviously the ensuing you know, brawl, which we knew was coming. And so you know, again, you know, what were your thoughts on this, guys? What were your thoughts on this?
I enjoyed it more when Don Callis and Kenny Omega came in and just took over. You know, I was expecting it to just be a standard interview and it ending the way it did. It was what you'd expected, but it wasn't boring.
Yeah.
And then when Don Callis came in, basically almost shoved Josh Matthews out the way without touching him, obviously, because of social distancing. But he came in, like, told him to get out of the way. Let the real people talk now. And Don Callis' charisma just blasting through. And then even Kenny Omega showing that he, despite the criticism he gets, he can be a good talker. And playing down Rich Swann and patronizing him throughout. Yeah, I was expecting Rich Swann to just get up and lamp him one throughout this entire speech, right? The fact that Rich waited right till the end and to get slapped across the face shows that Rich Swann's people still think he hasn't got that backbone to really defend himself when threatened.
Yeah,
so they're really playing on that. Kenny Omega is the bad guy in this, and Rich Swann is the hero, and it was just classic wrestling press conference that was a decent way to finish the night, although I would have preferred the end of the night to have been Jazz's send-off, in my opinion, only because it was more emotional, but the press conference made more sense.
Yeah, leading into Rebellion, obviously. What about you, Steve? What do you think?
Yeah, like Joe said, you know, everything worked well. The promo from Don was, you know, he can cut a great promo. You know, he's the classic heel, isn't he? He gets you to hate him the right way. Everything he says is absolute gold. And you know, Kenny's got his criticism, but I thought this was a great promo from Kenny.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was really good as well.
Yeah.
He's got to pull that mic away from his mouth a little bit, though.
A little bit, yeah. There was a bit too much feet, a bit too much muffled, but I had to bite my tongue when Tony was talking, because he was saying, "Well, we'll build the match on him on Dynamite now," and I'm like,
"Yeah, right.
You've not done anything to hype the match yet." Impact have been building it all this time, and you've not done anything yet.
You could say that, but I mean, you've got to remember that at the end of the day, this is an Impact pay-per-view. It's not an AEW pay-per-view.
True, but at the end of the day,
expect Impact to be pushing it more than AEW. But
at the end of the day, you've got to look at it the other way. They've got a chance of losing their world title. They should be worried about that.
Yeah, no, I think what they were trying to say was that no matter who wins the match, you know, that either champion will fulfill their full obligations to both promotions. I think that's what he was trying to say. So he would expect, if Rich was to win, he would expect Rich to turn up on Dynamite to defend his title. You know, that's what he was saying. So, you know, and again, if it's Kenny, then, you know, Kenny then has to fulfill his champion obligations to Impact Wrestling. And that both men are fully committed to that.
Yeah.
And that is interesting to hear. I think that's good.
It's shut a lot of the naysayers up, I think.
Yeah.
Yes,
To
I think
me,
so, because I think that's what he was doing. That's what he was saying.
To me, it makes me want Swan to win even more because it means we'll see an Impact talent on AEW.
Yeah, more than
If
just the Good
Kenny
Brothers.
wins, nothing will change. We'll still see Kenny on Impact.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think you're right. Yeah, no, it'd be good. I think going forward after Rebellion, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more Impact talents turn up on AEW.
Yeah,
And
hope so.
I want to see the Boston E Party versus the V-Trigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's going to be some interesting stuff going on. I think once we get Rebellion out of the way, we're going to get the lead into obviously Slammiversary, which, you know, is supposed to be our big one of the summer at least. I'm not sure what's the big one for AEW.
Is it
during
All
the summer?
In next?
It's all out is the next,
All Out.
or Double or Nothing is the next big one for AEW. Or
Right.
Okay, well,
I think they got Fighter Fest, I think, coming up, but the next big pay-per-view is All Out.
I'm sure. I mean, I'm going to assume that Double or Nothing.
Double or Nothing on May the 30th.
All right, there we go.
Okay, so that's their next one. Now I'm gonna start speculating. I think we're gonna start seeing stuff. Impact talents maybe crash the party. You know, I mean, we've had Impact talents on AEW previously. I mean, Brian Cage made an appearance there. We've had, I think Jordan Grace was it Double or Nothing? You know, a couple of years ago. So, I mean, I think, you know, there is the possibilities of seeing that crossover happen now, seeing a lot more happen. And I think maybe, I mean, I think would be really cool is if we had like a highlight reel for Impact on Dynamite.
That would be awesome.
You know, even if it was just like a minute and a half, 2 minutes, just a highlight reel, you know, of what the AEW fans are missing if they're not watching.
Yeah.
I think that would be cool.
I do find it interesting that, because have they actually said the exact specifications of the match? Because they've said it's title versus title, but Rich is still carrying both titles.
Yeah, but he was calling it unified. He was calling it. He was saying that he's the unified Impact champion.
Yeah.
That's what he was been calling it.
So if Kenny wins, he does take both.
He takes everything. Yeah, winner takes all. It's winner takes all.
Because they haven't actually unified both to one yet, have they?
That's the thing. Now, I'm not sure what's going on there because, you know, the fact that he's carrying two titles is a bit odd. I'm assuming that at some point there's a potentially brand spanking new belt in the works. It's just not ready yet. So I don't know. Maybe Slammiversary. We're going to see a brand spanking new, fully unified belt. I mean, I'd love to see an Impact Wrestling version of the big gold belt, the TNI.
Yeah, that's what I think. Something
that is beautiful.
Something like that's going to come Slammiversary or Bound for Glory. It's just right now. It's reminding everyone that Rich Swann has got both titles. He is the unified champion.
Yeah.
You know, he's the one. He's the one that's got everything to lose. And really.
Definitely.
Although I don't like the unified title name.
No, I don't. I think it's.
No, I think that's just a temporary thing. It's just basically it's a unified world title, and that's where it is at the moment. But again, you know, carrying more than one title is also very much reminiscent of like the boxing thing, where you know you've got the IWA, you've got the IBF, you've got the WBO, and you know, so you can win like 4 or 5 different world titles. You know, you could be the champion of all 5, can't you, or whatever it is.
Yeah. You can.
Kenny's like that at the minute as well, and he's carrying multiple titles.
Exactly. I mean, and I'll tell you what, I do want to give a little shout out to an English wrestler because I believe, as far as I'm aware, Will Ospreay now is the New Japan Pro Wrestling
he is.
IWGP champion.
Will Ospreay won the tournament as well, I think, and he's gone on to win the title.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you know that's all coming about as well. So there's I think there's some really interesting moves currently happening within like AAA, New Japan Pro Wrestling, obviously AEW and Impact. Some really interesting stuff going on. And if you think about the potential matches that could happen with someone like Will Ospreay as the champion, I mean, I'd love to see Will turn up on Impact. He's amazing. You know, imagine Will Ospreay versus Rich Swann.
Oh God, take my money.
That would just be. I mean, that is seriously gold. That is proper. Yeah, that's incredible match. So very, very interesting. Now, moving on from the press conference, I just want to sort of kind of talk about a few things that sort of kind of happened on this past week on Impact that are interesting. First one being Tennille Dashwood with her brand spanking new show All About Me, where the concept is she's
talking about
the
herself.
host. She's the host, and the guests come on and ask her questions. Is that right? Yeah.
Tennille Dashwood is the guest.
And
she invites someone on to host the show, and all they have to do is ask her about herself.
Ask her about her, because everything's about her, obviously. So it's very, very interesting. What are your thoughts on this segment? I love the way when Gia Miller came in, she was like, "Isn't this the?" She was trying to say locker room talk set, wasn't she?
Yeah, she nearly said it.
And Tennille was not. They were like, "Yeah, it's all about me." So, yeah, I thought it was good, and actually, I thought some of this was like. I thought this really highlighted Tennille's character really, really well. And I thought her acting skills in this whole kind of like, whatever, kind of attitude that she's got really shone through. She's just almost sort of kind of like anything that is not related to her, she's got absolutely no interest in whatsoever. I like the fact that she brought up the fact that she has fought Deanna before. In a previous company. Now, I meant to look it up actually before we recorded. I was interested to go and look it up and see who won that match, but she hinted that it was her, didn't she?
Yeah.
Because she literally said, Deanna's never beaten me.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see, again, where this one pans out. What are your thoughts on this one, Steve?
Yeah, like I had to watch this a second time because the first time I watched it, I was like, oh, okay, I'm not, I didn't really feel anything for that. So I watched it the second time. I was like, actually, this is better than I thought it was. She's got more character, and Gia's reactions played perfectly. I think this segment is going to depend entirely on the host. Because if you get a host that reacts with Tennille, it's going to be really good. Whereas if you get a host that Tennille doesn't work because her and Caleb work perfectly. Whereas if you get a host, I don't know, say like Sammy, she's gonna really react very well with Sammy. Whereas
maybe, or she's going to struggle because Sammy's such a strong personality.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
But yeah, I think the host can either make or break this segment. But yeah, I think in this one you saw, like you said, you saw a lot of Tennille's character, and it worked well because sometimes she's been a bit bland or she's been a bit too over the top, whereas she got it right here.
Yeah, no, I think this was very clever. It was really well done, and I am interested to see if we get a couple more of these before. I'm sure we'll get one next week at least, and then if she does win the title, it'd be interesting to see where we carry on with it. But yeah, what about you, Joe? What do you think? I know that you want to talk about the fallout from Hardcore Justice, don't you?
Yeah, I was so surprised that when Tennille Dashwood won this match, I was like we all know I predicted Rosemary. I was also hoping that Alicia Edwards would really, really prove to be the underdog in this match, and then Su Yung came and took her out back. So we don't know. Well, she's at Swingers Palace again, so we know where she is. We know she's fine. But Tennille Dashwood winning this was the much-needed ultimate upset, to be honest, because she was starting to lack direction, And in between her and Rosemary, I think Tennille Dashwood was the better suited to win the match. And Tennille Dashwood then backed it up this week by saying that Deonna Purrazzo has never beaten her. It's like Taya Valkyrie was the first person Tennille Dashwood went up against, and we only found that out when Taya Valkyrie mentioned it in a promo. So it's great to see that people that Tennille Dashwood are going up against in these big matches are someone that she's had history with, and it's a good surprise to people who've never followed her career. Which I never followed her career until she came to Impact Wrestling. I knew she was in WWE, but I didn't recognize her. It all just helped build up her character more and really improved her character. And like Stephen, you have said it, she just shone through so much this week.
Yes, she did. I think this was a big move forward for her as a character and a performer. You know, I mean, I'm not totally sold on her as a character, and I would be very disappointed to see her take that title off Deonna, I must admit. I can see it happening, you know, and if she can really sort of like start to really sell this character, it will be very interesting to see where it goes. So, you know, I think this is going to be a very interesting feud. That's for sure. But again, go on, Steve.
One thing that I would say is like her going up against Deonna now is when she won that match, I was like, the first thing I thought was, I don't think Tennille's got the charisma or the ability to stand there as a champion and carry the title. Like she hasn't got the ability to be a champion in like a mic work.
Or
Tennille.
Right.
You know, maybe in the ring, but maybe not outside the ring, like cutting promos. You wouldn't see her stand there and sort of say, look, I'm the champion like Deonna has.
No, I think you're right.
But this will help her.
I personally feel that Deonna is the champion we need right now. She needs to carry on as champion, in my opinion. I mean, if she loses the title, I would see the rematch coming quite soon, because I think that title looks amazing on her. She holds it well. She promotes the promotion. She's obviously very proud to be the Knockouts champion, and you know I mean, she's pretty. You know, she's an amazing talent. You know, no doubt about it. And I think it's great that she is carrying the Knockouts division. But like I said, I don't think she'll lose it to Neil. I don't see that happening. But if she does, it's just not going to be for very long, I don't think. But again, we just don't know. You know, all I would say is
maybe they got something else lined up for Deonna.
Exactly. I mean, this is our opinion. These are our thoughts. I'd say we are very interested to know exactly what you guys think. So again, you know, get those comments down there, guys. Let's hear your thoughts on the Tennille and Deonna thing, you know, that we got going on at the moment. You know, where do you think this is going, or on any other stuff, you know, that we've been talking about? Just leave us some comments below. Now, the other one I wanted to talk about was, obviously we had an incredible match, and it was the opening match with TJP versus Josh Alexander. Hey, I've got my Josh Alexander up there, actually. That came this week. Came with a couple of T-shirts I bought. But so thank you, Josh, for that. Really appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, he is one of my favorite wrestlers on the roster. And when you stick him in with TJP, who is, again, you know, technically one of the strongest technical wrestlers on the roster with Josh, you're going to get one hell of a match. And it was the opening match of the night, and it did not disappoint. I could watch TJP and Josh Alexander wrestle another 20 times and not get bored of it. That they're just incredibly good wrestlers, and they really know how to work with each other to create a really good match. Of course, Josh ended up victor on this occasion, so I believe TJP's won 3 and Josh is now won 1. So out of the 4 matches they've had, but again, Josh is, I think, getting super confident, and they're building him up to be the next X Division champion. But that said, I'm very interested to hear what you guys thought of the match as well. But that said, there was an amazing segment at the Palace with Ace Austin. Obviously, Josh Alexander was there, and we ended up with PT Pump, didn't we? Turn up, PT Pump Steiner turned up and give us some Steiner math, which I thought he did really well. Again, he even tried to sort of kind of emulate a similar style voice to Steiner, which I thought was really good as well. What were your thoughts on this, Joe?
Oh, PC Williams, that had me laughing so much. Every time we watch along on Twitch, the Signing Math promo comes on at least 2 or 3 times, and it never gets sold. And then to have PT Williams come in and do it just as good as Scott Steiner did was just hilarious. And it's good to see PT Williams still hanging around Impact Wrestling for a little while. The match they had. That is a match of the year contender. That was up there with Josh Alexander versus TJP last year, or Josh Alexander and Vikingo in Mexico. That was one of the best matches of 2020, as Matt Striker and D'Lo Brown have said. And that's going to take a hell of a lot of beating on any taping to come. I think Josh Alexander is going to be the next X Division champion. They really started to nail that home now that he's the one that has got. But they went so back and forth in this match. I was took it, and it's just amazing to see the chain wrestling that they can pull off. So it just proves that TJP isn't just a high flyer. He isn't just a submission specialist. He can get in and out and everything, just as well as Josh Alexander does. So Ace Austin's at a huge disadvantage in this match, and so if he wins, it's going to be an upset, but it's inevitable. But I really do think Josh Alexander has this one.
I don't know what you think about this, but do you not think that when he locks in that ankle, he looks just as good as Kurt Angle did doing it?
Oh, yeah, he executes it just as good as Kurt Angle and Ken Shamrock does. And if he was to grapevine the leg, he'd get an instant submission right there.
I think so. What about you, Steve? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I was a little like. I don't want to sound bad about this, but I was a little like nonplussed when I saw this advertised, because we've seen variations of this match for like the last couple of months. So it feels a bit repetitive, but the match itself was so off the charts that by the end of it, I was like, wow, that was amazing. And I really enjoyed it, and yeah, it's on par or maybe better than Ace Austin and Chris Bay.
Yeah, or Eddie Edwards and Michael Elgin would be another one. The matches they had together.
I mean, I was just referring to this year, but yeah, going back last year, but yeah, it's up there, match of the year contender. It really. I
mean, I like the way. I mean, on commentary, it was mentioned a couple of times through the night that that here at Impact Wrestling is all about the wrestling. And it was mentioned a few times on commentary tonight, which I thought was interesting, that they're sort of kind of like pushing the wrestling content. And I don't know if you've noticed, but certainly in the past 2 or 3 weeks, the shows have been quite match heavy. Like we've been having 5 matches, in an hour and a half.
They have, but I haven't felt like it's too much.
No. I'm not saying it's too much. I'm just saying that what they like I'm saying that they are focusing a little bit more on the actual, in-ring action as opposed to necessarily, massive segments of storytelling backstage or those kind of. There's definitely an emphasis on in-ring action, I think.
Yeah, everything's to the point. The promos are short and sweet, and the matches, some of the matches go for a good 10-15 minutes, and you think they breeze by. It's great, and it adds that rewatchable factor to it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that as well. Totally agree with that.
I say that there's definitely a more wrestling heavy, which is better than having it more story driven. Especially when you have matches like we just saw with TJP and Alexander. You don't want them to be backstage and just sitting at a table saying, well, what should we do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Now, one other thing, I want to talk about Sammy and Trey in a minute with regards to the Rebellion match that has been set up this past week on Impact. But I just want to mention that for me, there's a one sort of kind of like a social media moment of the week, or something along those, social media feud of the week or something going on at the moment. And I did mention this, a couple of weeks ago, that I've seen little bits and bobs coming here in between EC3 and Matt Cardona. Now, I just want to wedge this one in here before we sort of kind of like move towards the final thoughts, really. But
Okay.
again, this week we've started to see EC3 and Matt Cardona again, sort of kind of, feuding on social media a little bit. I don't know. Have you seen this, Joe?
Yeah, I saw there was a video they actually did of EC3 and Matt Cardona. They're sitting across each other in a diner. So I think this is leading to where everything is going after Rebellion. I think Matt Cardona is going to be going to Ring of Honor. But the back and forth they've had, Matt Cardona is taking jabs at EC3. Is this really how your narrative wants to go? And all things like that. And EC3 is taking jabs at Matt Cardona because after what he was like in WWE, and nothing's changed since you've come to Impact Wrestling. You're not fulfilling your true self. He's doing what Sammy Callahan's doing to Trey Miguel.
Yeah.
And EC3 is a god when it comes to promos, and it's putting Matt Cardona and building him up in Impact Wrestling perfectly.
Yeah.
And it's just great to see this cross promotional rivalry between these two. It's not all AEW versus Impact. There's a cross promotional rivalry between everybody, and it's building that friendly rivalry and good competition between everybody.
Yeah, and what is interesting with this, regards, I know you mentioned that Ring of Honor there. Now, like, is there a possibility? Because there's nothing official out there at the moment which says that there is a working relationship that includes Ring of Honor yet. But is this a sign that there is a possibility of a working relationship starting to happen now with Impact and Ring of Honor? I know that obviously we had EC3 for a little while, and there was hints of him being at Impact, and also hints of him going to Ring of Honor, and then he ended up going to Ring of Honor and signing there. I believe he's actually signed for a period of time.
Yeah.
I don't know how long he's signed, but I know he's signed. Probably only 12 months, maybe. Something like that. Because he's obviously wanting to control his narrative.
I don't think he wanted to sign with Impact long term. That was the issue, weren't it?
At the time, but that doesn't mean to say that he won't sign in the future. So I think there is an interesting feud building here, and you're right. Is Matt Cardona going to end up at Ring of Honor? I think that's more likely, knowing that EC3 is signed. But then if there's a working relationship starting to happen, then who knows?
I don't know how Ring of Honor's sort of system works. Do they, because would he be able to do, because he's still a free agent freelancer as far as I'm aware, Cardona, would he be able to do Impact and Ring of Honor at the same time? How do they work?
Maybe,
if he's not signed anywhere, he's free to jump back and forth between promotions. And Matt Cardona said when he came to Impact Wrestling early on that at the moment signing a contract and locking himself in anywhere isn't what he wants to do. He wants to rebuild himself, which he's done now, and he's still doing. He's rebranding himself. He's rebuilding himself. This rivalry with Brian Myers has really pushed them both up. And this interaction with EC3 is building more interest on the internet again, which is how Matt Cardona started off his career. It was building interest on the internet of what he of just him being himself, and now he's showing himself as a wrestler on the internet rather than himself as a personality that no one would really take seriously.
Yeah, no, you're right. I don't know. I just think, and of course, like I said, the reason I wanted to slot this one in is because it sort of leads to the Sammy and Trey thing. So this past week on Impact, we had the whole pick your poison matches. So we had Matt picked Jake something for Brian. Brian wins his match against Jake something. It was a really, I thought it was a good match. You know, two big men going for it. I thought it was good. And then Brian Myers wins his match, and then all of a sudden, you know, he picks Sami Callihan to be Matt Cardona's opponent. The lights go out, and there he is attacking Matt. It was which I actually thought out of the two matches, this was a really, really good match. Sami and Matt Cardona, they proper battered 10 bells of shit out of each other, which I thought was a really good, and it just goes to show that, you know, Matt Cardona is not just a Zack Ryder. You know, he is a proper, full-on, you know, hard as nails wrestler. And he got in there and he went toe to toe with, you know, one of Impact's, you know, proper hardcore specialist guys. You know, and he lost, you know, which was interesting. I expected that to happen. I thought there's no way Sami's going to lose this. It's just another way of elevating Sami a bit more as well, especially if Matt is not signed. Like, he's not a full-time talent. So it's a good way to do it. And then, of course, it builds that storyline into Rebellion, because we get two builds here. What we get is the Myers and Matt Cardona. And for me, Myers is going to win at Rebellion because Myers is the signed talent. And this whole thing has been about getting Myers over and taking him to the next level within Impact Wrestling. That's what this has all been about for me. And of course, that then leads to Sami calling out Trey Miguel. We then get the interaction between them, and Sami obviously not getting the answer that he wanted, then basically left Trey, you know, a beaten mess in the ring, to then lead to obviously the match that we're now going to get at Rebellion between Sami and Trey, which I think is going to be the match on the, you know, just the match just before the main event. And wow, I think that's going to be an amazing match. Thoughts, guys? Thoughts?
I love Sami Callihan versus Matt Cardona was awesome, and it finished with Sami Callihan taking another jab at Matt Cardona's past and at the company up north. What they did with him, which I thought was just a great heel and great way to really rub everyone's face and everything. And when he called out Trey Miguel, I was honestly expecting Trey Miguel to actually sign Sami Callihan's hand, and I thought Trey Miguel was the guy who attacked Tommy Dreamer after Sami's promo at Hardcore Justice, where he inserted himself into the card. I thought because Trey Miguel had teamed up with Eddie Edwards and his team against Violent by Design, I thought Trey Miguel's followed Sami Callihan's influence. And the way Sami Callihan was building it, it got me believing it more and more and more and more and more. And then when Trey Miguel just said, "You got nothing to do," he was like, "Oh yes, of course it was Sami Callihan who did it." And but it wasn't anticlimactic. It was satisfying regardless of what the outcome was, even though I missed the obvious one. And this last man standing match that's coming up at Rebellion, like you said, it's probably going to be match of the night, and it's going to take a hell of a lot of beating. It's this one, Ace Austin, Josh Alexander and TJP, or Rich Swann and Kenny Omega. They're the top three matches on the card. And but Sami Callihan's really building up Trey Miguel and really, really rebranding him perfectly. And Impact is doing a fantastic job with both of them, keeping Sami Callihan, because he's lost a few matches since he's re-signed his contract, keeping Sami Callihan strong, win or lose. And Sami beating Cardona has also set up how things are most likely going to go at Rebellion now. Matt Cardona's got a huge disadvantage unless he can turn something around next week.
Yeah, for sure. And what about you, Steve? What do you think?
Yeah, this whole segment went very interestingly. Like, it was too obvious to be Violent by Design, and yes, having Trey come out and then be told it was Sami was like, yep, okay, that makes far more sense now. And it was interesting how this finished as well. Like, Callihan sort of laying Trey out, but still leaving with a smile on his face. You know, like it's still all part of the plan. It seems.
Yeah, Sammy's got a master plan.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, did you catch the OVE reference?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
So
Yeah,
that's like
that
the
made me.
second week running that we've had an OVE reference as well,
Yeah.
isn't it?
It's
So,
by everything, was it? Something like that.
yeah, you know, it's just
Yeah, we'll
literally
take over.
taking over everything. Wasn't
Yeah,
it?
that was it. Yeah.
That was what he said, taking over everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I still think he's gonna mold Trey into something like we always hoped that Sammy and Jake should have been. I still think that's where they're going. Like the EC3 Moose storyline was.
I mean, without doubt, Sammy has been a big part of sort of elevating Trey. There is no doubt about that, bringing him to the forefront. And I think Trey is absolutely, he's smashing it. I think he's smashing it. His in-ring work is amazing. He's an incredible in-ring worker. But now we're seeing this more character-driven side of him. And I love the way that they've taken this whole passion thing.
They've really rubbed it into the company up north.
Yeah,
this guy hasn't got passion.
Yeah, they've totally taken the ball from with
Maybe that's what this new group will be called.
Passion.
Yeah.
Never know. Certainly won't be called Big Nose. But it could be. You never know. But no, it could be called Passion. Passion of Miguel, maybe. I don't know. But I think I'm really, really excited to see where Trey goes. Obviously, I'm a massive Sammy mark anyway, so anything this dude does, I love. And I just love the fact that like whenever it's just his look, his facial expressions, just everything.
He lost a fingernail during the match as well.
Yeah, and he was like,
"Oh, it was awesome." You could see him. It's like, "Oh my god!" I didn't realize until the end of the match when he
just literally pulls his fingernail.
Pulls his fingernail off. It's like shit.
Yeah.
He just looks at it like nothing happened.
Yeah. We all know that's quite sore, but to him, this dude gets smashed into walls and stuff. But anyway, so I'm really looking forward to seeing where this goes. I love both talents. I don't know why Trey has actually blocked me on social media because I'm a massive fan. So that's interesting, that one. But yeah, interesting to see where this one goes. Big fan of these guys, definitely. And I'm very excited for this match. I think it's going to be, I think it's, like I said, I think it's going to be the match just before the main event. And I think it's going to lead into that main event. And it could even steal the show. Sammy and Trey are both incredible Impact talents, and we know that both of them can put on an incredible match. So, and they know each other well from because I don't know whether it is common knowledge, but Sammy is is one of the guys that helped train and bring Trey through. So it is going to be interesting to see how well they do know each other. And I know that like Wrestling Revolver and stuff like that, they've wrestled a lot. So I think we're in for a treat in this match. We're in for an absolute treat. I'm looking forward to it. Now, before we sort of kind of head into where we can find each other and all that kind of stuff, Joe, have you got any final thoughts, any shout outs or anything like that?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Eddie Edwards and Alicia Edwards. Happy anniversary from Sunday. It was great to see Kenny had a wife during that knockouts match. We got to introduction of Kendra. I just want to wish you guys all the best. And I know Eddie Edwards has been really, really responsive to all the shout outs I've given online. So I want to thank him for that too.
Eddie is
both
of
them.
Eddie is great online. He does react to lots of stuff, doesn't he?
Yeah, both of them have been massive influence and big morale boost after the last year. So it means a lot to get that interaction back, and I just want to return the favor and say congratulations and long may it continue.
Yeah, definitely. Fair play. Yeah, congratulations, Eddie and Alicia Edwards, on your anniversary. Okay, so with that said, where can we find you, Steve, on the social? Where can we find you, mate?
You can get me over on the Twitter at simplysteve311.
Okay, and Joe?
You can jump into the empty space on Twitter at Joe-ker empty space, or you can step into the void on Facebook for a daily giggle. If you look for Joe O'Keefe, look for hashtag empty space, hashtag the void, hashtag daily giggle. You'll probably see one or two posts from me somewhere. That take it with a pinch of salt, because some of them do get a bit OTT. So you have been warned, to quote EC3.
Josh, Joe is a very, very, he's definitely a fun guy to follow on the socials, guys. I definitely recommend doing that.
They are
Steve,
great.
Steve is a newbie to the old Twitter, so it would be nice if you could give him a follow. He's building up his follows now. Obviously, he's only recently joined since he's joined the TNI team. So I think your first aim is to get to 100 follows. I think we could do that, guys. I think if everybody is watching the show this week, headed over to @SimplySteve311, give him a follow. I think you'd hit 100 this week. That would be amazing. That would be a good start. And again, Steve is very active with his wrestling stuff, and he's definitely worth a follow. So definitely follow Steve. If you're interested in following the Bison, I am at Lord Bison 45 on Twitter. That's primarily where I do all my wrestling stuff. You could find me on Facebook if you wanted to. That's Jason Hawk on Facebook. So you could find me on there if you wanted to. But primarily, I do wrestling talk on the Twitter sphere. So yeah, at Lord Bison 45. Please give me a follow. And again, I can't say more. Like, share, leave a comment. Don't forget to head over, subscribe to the TNI network, and make sure you give that bell a good tickle so you never miss anything. We put out on a weekly basis. You've got the TNI US team doing the review after Impact on Thursday. We got the throwback show. I think they've stopped doing the Impact Plus special at the moment, but possibly that going on. Obviously, you've got us from the TNI team, Impacted. We go out every Wednesday. Obviously, we've changed that now, so we're sort of kind of like your lead into Impact Thursday. So now it's all about us on a Wednesday and not on a Friday. So this is going out Wednesdays. Every now and again, you might see an interview pop up from myself or Bison Talks Impact. I have got a couple coming up, lined up, guys. So keep your eyes open for that, because I do love doing them. Interestingly enough, I've been trying to get hold of Nevaeh, because it would be nice to get her on the show and maybe talk about, her last year on Impact and what the future holds of her. That would be really good. So I'm trying to get hold of her. And who knows, I might have Jake on again at some point, but you never know. But anyway, guys, it's been fantastic talking to you again this week. Like I said, make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe, tickle the bell. And do you know what? I really want to have a question actually this week. Anyone's got a question, anything that you want us to talk about in the next show? I think our next show is going to be the Rebellion preview show. But if you've got a question in there, I want to give you guys a shout out, and I want to answer any questions that you might have. So yeah, please leave it in the comments, and we'll try and answer that on next week's show. But yeah, so make sure, like I said, you like, share, comment, leave us anything you want, subscribe, tickle the bell, don't miss anything. And anyway, that has been this week's episode of Impacted. And I have been Bison, your host, and I've been accompanied by the TNI team of Simply Steve and the Joker. And like I said, this week's show, Impact.